My name is Lila Hart, and I never expected that, returning to my hometown of Willowbrook. In the wide open fields of Tennessee would pull me into a storm of feelings I thought I had safely locked away for years, and even though I had built a new life in Chicago working as a creative manager for a small design studio, the quiet nights and warm summer air of this place called me back in a way I could not ignore anymore. So I packed my suitcase, took a long, deep breath, and drove through the endless stretch of highway until the world around me softened into the familiar scent of pine and sweet grass and the soft evening breeze that always reminded me of childhood memories I wanted to hold close again and maybe heal a part of me that still felt unfinished, and somewhere hidden beneath all that was a man I had once tried very hard to forget, but who had never really left my heart even after all these years, because the truth was that Noah Reed had always been the kind of person who stayed with you, even when you were gone from him, and I did not know what would happen when we met again, but I felt the quiet, trembling anticipation settle inside my chest like a spark waiting to become a flame the moment I arrived at the old farmhouse that used to belong to my grandmother. I felt a wave of memories wash over me, and I walked across the wooden porch with a strange mixture of comfort and nervous energy. This place was a safety net at one time, and stepping back into it felt like reopening a book I never finished reading, yet somehow knew every page by heart. And as I settled inside, dusting off the shelves, opening the windows, letting the warm Tennessee air drift in, I kept telling myself that I came here for peace, for a break, for a chance to breathe, but deep down I knew there was more to it than that. The next morning I drove into town to pick up some groceries, and that was when fate, or something close to it, decided to interfere in the form of a tall, broad-shouldered man standing outside the local hardware store with sunlight hitting the edge of his dark hair and making him look almost unreal. For a moment I wanted to turn back, get inside my car, and avoid whatever would come next, but before I could escape, his eyes lifted and collided with mine, and I felt my breath shift inside me, because Noah Reed was standing there looking at me with the same warm, steady gaze he always had, and time seemed to fold into itself when he smiled in that slow, familiar way and said my name like it was something he had been holding on to for years, and suddenly everything around us softened and sharpened. At the same time, like the world wanted to press us back into place. Noah had been my closest friend growing up, the boy next door, the person I trusted more than anyone, until life and choices and fear pulled us apart. And I had convinced myself our chapter ended, but seeing him now made that lie crumble inside me. He walked toward me with that calm, steady energy he always carried and asked how long I had been back, and I told him just yesterday, trying to keep my heartbeat from echoing in my voice, and he nodded. In that thoughtful way he had glanced at my hands, then back at me as if making sure I was really there, and said he hoped I planned on staying for a while because Willowbrook had missed me more than I realized. And even though the words were simple, something about the way he said them made warmth trail through me like a sunrise. After a long winter, for the rest of the day I could not shake the feeling of him, the memory of his voice, the familiar scent of cedar and summer air that clung to him, and I tried to distract myself by cleaning the house, organizing shelves, watering the neglected garden out back. But every small moment seemed filled with his presence, as if he was woven into the soil and sky of this place. Later that evening, while I sat on the porch with a glass of sweet tea, the sky painted in ribbons of orange and soft rose, I heard footsteps on the gravel path, and when I looked up, Noah was there again, holding a brown paper bag and a shy smile as he approached. He said he brought me something warm for dinner because he remembered I always forgot to eat when I was busy settling in, and despite all the years, despite all the distance, I realized he still remembered me in ways I had forgotten to remember myself. We sat on the porch steps sharing cornbread and chicken stew from the local diner, talking about everything and nothing, the comfortable kind of conversation that never felt forced. Noah told me about his work, running his father's old workshop, about his sister who had married last spring, about how quiet life had become yet how full it still felt. And I told him about Chicago, about deadlines and city lights and the strange loneliness that comes from always being surrounded by people, but never really being known, and somewhere between the soft hum of evening insects and the breeze that brushed against us, I felt something shift between us like a door quietly opening. Noah looked at me with a softness that made my heart ache in ways I did not expect, and he reached up, brushing a strand of hair behind my ear in a gesture so familiar. My chest tightened because it felt like coming home, and he said he was glad I was back, not just for a visit, but really back. And I found myself admitting that I needed this place more than I thought, and maybe I needed someone who still saw me even when I forgot how to see myself. The night grew darker. Fireflies dancing in the yard in the warm glow of the porch light wrapped us in a gentle cocoon of quiet connection, and when Noah finally stood to leave, he hesitated. For just a moment, his hand brushing mine like a promise not spoken aloud, and he said he hoped I would join him tomorrow at the lake, the old spot where we used to escape the world for a while. And my heart answered before my voice did, telling him yes, telling him I would go, telling him that maybe this time we were meant to find our way back to each other. As he walked away into the soft darkness, I realized that coming back to Willowbrook was never just a return. It was a beginning, a slow unfolding of something I thought I had lost, and maybe something I was meant to rediscover. And as the night wrapped around me warm and hopeful, I felt something inside me open, a quiet, steady feeling that whispered that Noah Reed might just be the part of my story I was finally ready to write again. Subscribe to channel.